I'm Carolyn Aronson, and I'm a board member of the Southern California Horticultural Society on the speaker committee, and it's my pleasure to introduce Antonio Sanchez, who very, very kindly at the last minute stepped in for Marie Gonzalez just earlier this week. And he is the manager of the propagation nursery for the Santa Monica Mountains Fund. He's growing all the plants for restoration. He also does propagation for Artemisia Nursery, and he's a member of a very well-known band called Sage Against the Machine. So without further ado, come on up.
When Carol reached out about, can you talk more? How many people did you reach out to before you called? 7, I asked. 7 people said no, so I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna fit all this into 3 hours, Carol, but I'm gonna try my best. How many people, this is your first time at the Southern California Horticultural Fund? All right, welcome, bienvenidos. I just wanna put this out there. I've been lucky enough to be in this world for 18 years in Southern California. And let's just be honest, sometimes we come to these meetings as who I am and I feel out of place. I've never felt unwelcome though. And I just want to tell everyone who's here, who's been here for 20, 30, 40 years, probably longer, and those who are here for the first time, this is your meeting, this is your club. Please keep coming back. Things change. And the future is really, really beautiful, so welcome tonight. So there's my email, sanchezhorticulture@gmail.com. I'll put it one more time at the end. And I think before I start, it's super important to me that I give thanks to all the folks that I've gotten to work with. I used to be proud about working at all these different places. Now it just feels like I can't hold a job for more than 2 or 3 years. I used to work at California Nursery up in Northern California with Phil and Sherry, amazing native plant people. I got to work at the O'Kane, got fired from there. It's good to quit before you get fired. I could feel it coming. Got to run the nurseries at Rancho, Santa Barbara Botanic Garden, which is California Botanic Garden now. Got to work at Santa Barbara Botanic Garden. Just a lot of good people, and I know there's a lot of people who have taught me a ton. You can learn a lot on the internet these days. It's just not the same. And so I know I'm missing a lot of people on this. There's some people actually in the crowd. It's really, really good to see all of you, but those folks. So what are we gonna talk about today? When I first started plants growing, how much time do I have?
You have 45 minutes.
Oh, damn, I better start talking then. I was about to start telling the story about my grandma in Coahuila, and I'm gonna skip that. The whole thing is skipped. Alright, so fast forward. My grandma, she passed away, rest in peace. Cool. That's all you need to know now. I just skipped 15 minutes. So let's talk about these 3 things. My goal is I don't think you're gonna be able to learn a lot from this class, honestly, because stuff just comes at you so fast. My goal is for you guys to go home and know how to figure it out for yourselves. If I can be part of that, I think that's a good 45 minutes, now 43 minutes. So identify and seed. Now that I know that we have 45 minutes, I might not do this, but identify and seed. That's one of the hardest things, and it still humbles me. It hasn't gotten me this year, it got us last year. I get to work, at this point I've probably grown maybe 400 different species of native plants. There's over 6,000 in California, and I still get scared. I still get overwhelmed by not knowing what the hell I'm looking at. But see, I don't know what I'm looking at sometimes. And so I wanted to share with you guys a resource on how to find out what it is. And this is what we actually use in the Santa Monica Mountains. I was gonna have you all walk through this, but because we only have 3 hours and 45 minutes, I think we'll skip it. But you can see there, you can search in Google or whatever you use, hazmat seed, or you can type in that long address, fast. And on the top left will come up this website. This website was created in 1912. It looks like the oldest website. That website is old school, pre-2005, I love it. On the top left, you can click seed photos by genus. And let's say that we're looking for white sage. There's some seeds that are very, very easy to identify. I would think that sage is one of them, but sometimes it's not, because there's so much broken chaff, there's so many leaf parts, there's so many stem parts. And so I was gonna have you guys do this, but I'm just gonna walk you through it. If you were to go to that seed genus link, it has thousands of photos. And you can click on Salvia Piana on the top. Oh, there's a clicker. I don't even know how it works. I am in LA. When I do Ventura County, the pointer doesn't work. That is Salvia Clevelandia up on the top right. And then Salvia and then Salvia Apiana, white sage, on the bottom. They look pretty similar. And they almost look like chia. If you guys ever had like Salvia, what is Salvia? Hispanica, the Mexican chia. It looks almost identical. Salvia columbaria, the native chia, looks very, very similar. So I was gonna have you guys look up Salvia oxnardensis, and then it was gonna be super funny because there is no Salvia oxnardensis, and everyone's gonna say, oh, okay, it's not. I guess that's what I get for not seeing how much time I have. So, but the point is, if Salvia oxnardensis ever did occur, ever did mutate, ever did become a species, that's what the seed would look like. Not exactly, it would have that shape, right? And so there's a lot of times we're going to look for seed, and I was going to have you guys do this. I was going to have you look up Figuera la Sellada. Some of you hardcore native plant people were going to yell, it's not Figuera anymore. Mimulus aurantiacus, which I still call it Mimulus. Naomi, it's all good. Diplicus aurantiacus, and you can look up on that list, and it would say Figuera, not an active name. Now it's Bahiopsis. Mimulus aurantiacus, not an active name, now it's Diplicus. And sometimes we have to do that. A lot of the information that we have, there's only 2 or 3 people who have published anything on anything that we're doing. And sometimes it has the old name. So I think it's good to use those old names, especially if you bought 1,000 labels that have that old name. You still need to use them. So that's a little intro on how to identify the seed. And even if you don't find, Salvia, what's not on there? Even if you don't find the species of Salvia, you should find the genus. And from there, you've got a clue as to what the shape is of the seed. So from there, we would go to collecting the seed. And there's a lot of things we could talk about with collecting the seed. I like to keep it basic, and I'm open to any questions you guys have. I don't want to skip over anything too fast. I want to make sure I answer you guys' questions. But to me, it comes down to a few basics, and I'll tell you what these seeds are that I collected over here in a second. So when do we collect? Normally for our perennials, so perennials being like a fig tree or penstemon or white sage. Those are plants that hopefully, unless you're a new gardener who goes to Home Depot a lot, white sage is supposed to last 5, 10, 20 years. If you buy white sage from Home Depot, it'll probably last a year once you put 3 dirt emitters on it in clay soil. But they're supposed to last a long time. So for perennials, after they flower, the seed is usually ready 1 to 3 months. And as I was typing that, I'm like, that kind of doesn't mean anything because that's a very wide range. But what that means is, once you see the flower, you usually have some time to collect the seed. A lot of what we do, we'll go scout, we'll go look. Is white sage flowering? It's flowering May 15th. That means we're going to mark it for maybe 45 days later. July 1st, let's go visit it. Because we know we got about maybe a month and a half. And things are different if it's hot, if it's cold, if it's rainy, if it's dry, all those things affect. But for the most part, 1 to 3 months. And then you can tell as the fruit changes color, and I'll show you a picture of something else right now. Like a tomato. Unless you're growing a purple tomato, a green tomato, let's say Roma tomatoes, they're ready, not just when they change color, but it's just like a baby. A lot of plants is just like being human. When a baby's ready, and I hope that that baby comes out healthy, the baby just comes out. When a Roma tomato's ready, it falls into your hand. And so a lot of these things, you can go up to a plant and just ask it, or you can kick it. And if it's offering itself to you, most plants want to get the seed distributed. And it's a beautiful thing. How do we collect? We collect usually by hand. We use pruners sometimes. I'll show a few other tricks that we do. But the big thing is that we collect in paper bags. We want to collect in paper bags. I used to collect a lot in plastic bags, not realizing that a plant that's dry, but still or a seed head or whatever fruit that's dry, but still on the plant, actually has a lot of water. It doesn't look like it's wet, but it has a lot of water. You put it in a plastic bag, you throw it in your car, you go to 7-Eleven, you meet the homies, you're drinking behind 7-Eleven, a Mickey's, you take the second Mickey's. 3 hours later, you forgot to roll down your window, your car has been in full sun, 100 degrees, and that plastic bag can heat up quick. I've lost seed in 2 days, leaving it in my car in a plastic bag. So paper bags, we get it in the trunk if we can, we get it out of the heat. And another thing that we do if we can't clean it right away, we usually throw some sort of, I forget what they're called, I was going to add a picture, I apologize for not putting a picture. We add some sort of pesticide, believe it or not. We'll put it in a trash can. So a big trash can where we have one of those no pest strips, I think they're called. And what they do is they fumigate because there's a bunch of insects, not in all of these flowers, but in a lot of them. Salvia spatacea, hummingbird sage. Oh man, if you guys ever harvested hummingbird sage, you're like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna sell each seed for $3. I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna be driving a Tesla with those like pastel colors, not the regular, like a pastel. And then you come back 2 weeks later, you just sat the paper bags, on your wherever, and they all have holes in them. You close the paper bags, you let the insects there. That's like closing like a Chinese buffet and leaving me in there overnight. There's not gonna be any orange chicken the next day. I'll probably get through the Jell-O too. I love how quiet it is. I love it. Another thing we do when we collect, for most seed, we want to collect and put the seed head upside down. That's really important to us. Why? Because as sage, as penstemon, kekiela, potentilla, verbena, the one on the top right, as they mature and they start to dry, they're gonna let their seed go. And even just you picking up the bag and moving it, a lot of times will shake the seed loose. If you've just stored the seed stalks upright or just throw them in, the seed gets caught. And it's really hard to clean sometimes. If you do it correctly and you just cut 10, 20 stems, put them upside down, all you have to do is get the corner of the bag and pour out 2,000 purple sage seeds. It's easy. You don't have to clean it. We'll go over cleaning a little bit, but just by collecting the seed correctly and storing it correctly in the bag, you've already done a lot of your work. And when we collect, a lot of this stuff is already open, it's ready to release, and so we want to hold it delicately, put it in the bag delicately. If we just rip it, cut it, or just like this, like this, like this, some of the seed falls out, we lose a lot of seed. So why do we collect? Definitely collect only from your garden, not from the San Gabriel Mountains, only places where you have asked for permission. 10 to 20% of the seed is what we aim for at the most. Unless it's in your own backyard, and maybe you're not going to leave it for birds or for it to repopulate, definitely take all you want. But for the most part, we try not to take more than 10, 20% of a plant. And then what do you do after you collect it? We're going to put it in a cool, dry place, maybe a closet, maybe a garage if it stays cool, until you get to clean it, and hopefully you put that insect pester, because those insects are they're gonna come off. We have used freezers before. I don't think freezers, they're a good option, but there are some insects that will survive freezing. I know I've been left in a freezer before, that's why I'm like this right now. So I didn't come out 100%, but 70% of me made it. I think a freezer is a good option, but it doesn't kill everything. So this is what we use, our paper bags. You can see on the envelopes, on the paper bags, I'm writing the name of the plant, I'm writing the date, I'm writing the location if you want to. On one of these, we can put how many plants we collected from. We collected from over 100 plants, so we put that. It's a lot of genetic diversity in those different 100 plants. And on the left, next to that envelope, you see a glass jar. Once it's clean, we dry up the seed. Usually the seed dries on its own if you leave it for months. We get really hardcore, we put it in a fish tank. And we have one of our interns eat a bunch of beef jerky. And once they're done with the beef jerky, we get the desiccant, or I guess we could just order the desiccant. I'm lying, we just order the desiccant. Beef jerky is really expensive. And we try to draw this. I know for sure now I'm not getting invited back. We try to drop it down to 15% humidity. We have a tool to check the humidity. And then from there, we lock it into the jar or we lock it into a plastic container. We keep that in the fridge. We keep that in a closet. If we're going to keep it long term, we'll actually freeze it. But for I think most of us here today, if we're just going to do short term, we want to use it tomorrow, next year, or in a few months. I think a paper bag is fine. As long as the insects are out, a glass jar or a plastic container are more than enough in your closet, in a fridge. As long as that fridge stays closed, that you're not opening and closing it, and that the lid stays closed, right? We don't want just that temperature going up and down, and we don't want water to get into that, into the containers. And this is one way that we collect seeds. Sometimes we have Ceanothus, milkweed, we have lupins. There's a lot of plants that once they're ready, they pop. If you guys haven't heard our coastal sage scrub, one of the original musics of California, walking through a lupin field as it's just making that beautiful noise. It's amazing. And that's how we collect. We use organza bags. So what we do is we send our interns, they do the same thing, they get the beef jerky, and then at night we send them to the quinceañeras, and they go to all the tables and they get all the gift bags from the quinceañeras, and how many people are, okay, that's more than I thought, all right? And we collect milkweed. There's a stuffy area carpet in there. So let me walk you through one of the ugliest plants in California. I'm just kidding. Oh, damn, you guys still like native plants, all right. California milkweed. That's one of my favorites. I adore this plant. So on the left, you can see a few stems that I broke off. I think one thing I would like for you guys to notice is not just the flower color, because that's easy. Look at the stem color. The stem color to me is telling me that these plants are ready. The flowering stem. Not the part that looks like rosemary. That naked stem that's holding up those flower clusters. At the bottom, they're changing color. They're yellow, they're brown. And you can see at the bottom some of those flowers. That's not seed yet. Some of those flowers are falling off. And you move up, and the white flowers aren't falling off. And in the middle, those guys aren't quite ready, but I bet you if I was a little aggressive with them, some of the flowers probably would have fallen off. And so here's what we have. On the right is you can just rub your hand on a bunch of those dry flower heads. I'm sorry, the flower stalks. And the stalks will break off, and that's all flowers. Right? We can use that resource, hopefully, that you guys can see, because I know a lot of people will just stop there, and they'll sow that. And we love it because you guys can't grow it, and then we get to sell you live plants. It's amazing. So I'm going to reduce our sales at Artemisia Nursery by about 20% just by showing you this. So on the left is those flowers. And all you do, and if you guys would like afterwards, I brought that setup so I can show you. And you guys are welcome to take California milkweed home today if you'd like. $20. It's not 20. It's 19. There's round up. I love the fact that some people are still laughing. That's good. That's good. Because I'm not even laughing. This is just sounds ridiculous. So I take the flowers and I put them in my hand and I grind them up pretty hard. And what I want to do is make the seed. Imagine roses. The rose petals break apart into dust, and imagine if there was an orange seed inside the rose petals. The orange seed is hard to destroy doing this, but the petals will fall apart. So that's our 3 stages. Left is the flowers, I'm gonna run it through that pasta strainer. I did it without pasta. You can do it with pasta, but it isn't as easy. I knew that was weak when I did that one. This is not that funny, but I did it anyways. I love this. And then I shook it out, and the dust fell through the pasta strainer, and the seeds stayed in the sieve. And that's how we charge you $6 for California buckwheat that you could have done on your own very, very easily. How do we identify the seed? California buckwheat on the left, a bunch of other Eriogonums. You know what, I made a mistake. That's actually a huge mistake. John McDonald, if I didn't give him enough props, these are his pictures. He was a volunteer at Rancho Santa Ana. I don't think he's there anymore. But for years, took all these pictures. High definition pictures, amazing work. This is all his work. They made it available for free, but without that, this becomes a very hard class to teach, because those are such good pictures. So, 4 other different buckwheats. If you don't find your buckwheat, just find the genus, and they look all very, very similar. So let's go back. Right in the middle, you can see that shape. And I apologize, it's not the best picture, but in the middle, we have those teardrop shaped seeds, and that's our California buckwheat ready to sow. We'll go through a few more. Maybe cardinalis, Potentilla granulosa, Ramus californica. I know most of these are old names. I don't care. That monkey flower on the right, you can see one little flower just wilted. Everything else hopefully has been pollinated. All those little seed pods hopefully are developing, all those little fruits. And so let's look first at Potentilla granulosa. Hopefully you can see the fruits, the old flowers, the fruiting capsules are still on the plant. And all I had to do was shake, and they came right out. That one's easy to lose. If you're very sloppy, then it'll just fall out. On the right, coffeeberry, Frangula californica. Damn, I said coffeeberry, Ramus californica. All the different colors of the fruits. On the top was the red to black ones. I just squeezed them, they came right out. The one in the middle was red, not black, but fairly dark red. It looks pretty mature. A lot of seed when it's mature, not all, but a lot of seed when it's mature is going to be brown, black, dark tan. And then at the bottom, we've got a bunch of what I thought was unripe fruit, and I popped one open, and I confirmed that those seeds were developing. They look healthy. A baby inside a mom at about 7 months, not quite ready. Here's the question though, we could have probably collected those, put them in the fridge, and probably let them harden up, and they may have ripened to become mature seed. That's really hard to tell species to species, genus to genus, but sometimes we'll collect stuff when it's like this, because we can't get back to that population. It just took us 2 hours to hike there, and there's no way we're coming back for 2 more months. And by then it'll be gone. Monkey flower on the left, I love monkey flower. The seed is so tiny. It's dust. You probably can't even tell what it is. It's the tiny specks that all are about uniform size. And when we're looking for seed, we want to just think of tomato seed, all the same shape, watermelon seed, all the same shape. When we're looking at seed, it's all going to be the same shape. That's how we can tell it's not chaff, it's not leaf parts. The only one that's tricky for me are the kekios and the penstemon. Those little bastards are different. They're not exactly the same shape, and they are tricky. But once you learn it, then you know, like, okay, I know what that whole genus is. Verbena, these are very, very close to being ready. You can tell by how green that stem is. They weren't quite ready, but at the very bottom, so at the top there's still flowers, at the bottom was the old flowers. That's the oldest seed, or the most mature seed. So at the bottom I just touched a little bit and had a few of the seeds come out. And so I just want to give props to a few amazing groups. CNPS San Diego, they have a whole website on propagation and horticulture. They have a great, this is from Lee Gordon, this is a great, just hands-on, step-by-step on how to clean toyon. If you're not going to grow 10,000 toyon, a blender is cool. A molcajete is cool. But I prefer my blender for my margaritas. I got one sitting in the car. I prefer my molcajete for my guacamole. You can do whatever you want. But if all you're gonna grow is 50 or 100 toyon, follow this procedure. It's very easy to peel. We get them to germinate in 5 to 10 days. They're so easy. The key is figuring out the difference between, see figure 2? Most people stop there and they plant an orange. They forget to open the orange and take the seed out. And so when you just plant figure 2, they'll wake up eventually, because eventually that orange will rot out. But that's why a lot of people don't get, because they're not sowing the seed. And if you would have looked on that website to see the seed, you would have seen that that's not the seed you're planting. There's a workshop, a few workshops coming out with CNPS San Gabriel Mountains. I would encourage you to sign up. There's just so many amazing opportunities to find out about seed. Most of them are free. I am lucky enough to offer free classes at Debs Park once a month, and then at Ascot Hills with Northeast Trees once a month. We have free seed where we give you seed mix, we give you pots, we give you cuttings, we give you seed to take home and kill. We can get more into cleaning, but I honestly think cleaning, so let me go. So on the left side of that old school website, I have a pointer because it is right here. Right there, you see that little chingadera right there? It says processing seeds. That's a whole book. It's a beautiful, like 100, 200 page book. I forget how big it is. It's a PDF, you can download it, and you can look at all the cool tools, a lot of them homemade, a lot of them available in your home or very low cost to make, that you could use to start to clean the seed. But for the most part, if you collect it correctly and you're only growing 100, 200 seed, you don't need most of this stuff. As long as you can identify the seed, it's easy to separate some seed to sow. Where we do need all of these fancy tools is when we have pounds and pounds and millions of seeds to clean. That's when we need these fancy tools. I'm gonna skip over this, but I'll come back to it if anybody has any questions about cleaning anything. But that's where you could find it. There's a whole book on how to clean our seed once you've collected it. So sowing, that's my favorite part. Honestly, I think, and I mean this with all sincerity, I think I'm not a very good grower, but I just won't stop trying. And it's like making music. If you make 30 songs, eventually one of them is going to be good, right, Taylor Swift? I'm looking at you. It's not that good, right? Is there any Swifties in here? Is it Bad Bunny crowd? Oh, okay, all right. Griffin Park. Okay. Baby, that's how I walk down. Okay, let me keep going. So, what do we need to sow seed? We need seed mix. I would strongly recommend using seed mix. It's really expensive. But it's good for our native plants because our native plants, most of the time, we're pulling from native nature. They're not domesticated. Corn, maize, dude, if you can't grow corn, like just stop growing. Like, just stop. All you have to do is take corn, stick it a foot down, an inch down, half an inch, water it, pee on it, have your dog pee on it. It'll come up as long as it's June, July, August. Because it got the wild beat out of it a long time. If you guys have ever seen old school corn, they'll think that the grass is completely different. Growing, they'll think there's a whole different world than growing corn. Corn is domesticated. Our native plants are not domesticated. So we need to give them what they have in nature. And one of the best ways, that actually, now I sound like I'm lying, because the soil that we're using is not anything like nature. But we're going to use a very boring mix, which is just peat moss. A little bit of perlite, but it's seed mix. So don't even, I think peat moss is incorrect, I shouldn't have said that. We're going to use seed mix. If you buy seed mix, it's light, it's expensive, but it works. You can grow a lot of native plants in potting soil. You can grow a lot of native plants in screen compost for sure, but it complicates things. And if you're getting started, I would highly recommend that you use seed starting mix. We use 17-inch square trays. We throw our seed in there because we have no idea how good the seed is. Some of our seed is 30% germination, some is 50%, some is 80%. I'm not going to take the time to put one seed in every pot if only 30% of them are going to wake up. And so we do community trays, we call them community pots, where we just grow a ton of seed and we see what comes up. And then we're going to use fertilizer too. I'll tell you how to use the fertilizer. And then we cover up our stuff because mice, bats, dinosaurs, all sorts of stuff love seed. And then I think the most important part that I don't get to cover here, but I do cover it in the classes at Des Park and ASCOT, is to move up the plants. I say this with all respect, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. For most people, it's very easy to make a baby, for most people. It's not easy to raise a baby. So it's easy to germinate most of this stuff. It's not easy to, holy Jesus. So I'm gonna cover that a little bit. How much time do I have, Carol? Less than 10 minutes? I'm good? All right, cool. So tools for sowing seed. What do we need? We don't need anything special. What am I talking about? I keep telling them what I'm talking about. Sorry, what do we plant up? This, I will go through a bunch of different species right now. Sorry. So I'm going to sow in the seed. I'll tell you exactly how in a second. And then once they're ready to move up, I'm going to move them up into these 2-inch pots. Everything that I work with, we grow over 130,000 plants a year at the park. I'm the only full-time person there. There's one part-time person 1 day a week. And everything else is done by volunteers and interns. And when we have people who come once a month, once a year, I have to make it easy. I have to make it bulletproof. I have to make it to where my plants aren't going to die. And so a lot of these plants could be moved up to bigger pots right away, but we can lose them if we don't do that correctly. Look at the size of these pots. This is a 2-inch deep pot. If I have imagine this is a shot glass. If I have a shot glass of beer before this top, I can get the top. If I have a 3-inch glass of beer before the top, I can get the top. If I have this much alcohol, that's a lot. And so you send a small seedling into a deep pot with heavy soil, you will lose the plant if you don't know what you're doing. It's almost like swimming. If someone knows kind of how to swim, but not really, they're 4 foot tall, put them in the 4 foot section. And they'll bounce out and they'll learn. Don't throw them in the 8 foot section, because unless you don't like them, because they're gone. And it happens all the time. There's many plants that you can put in the 8 foot section, but you gotta know which ones they are. Until you do, don't break your heart by putting them in the 8-inch. Always put them in the next size up. First graders should go to second grade. This Gradelia camporm, gum plant, I love this plant. This is easy. This is as basic as it gets. Once you've collected the seed, you sow it 1/8-inch deep. You cover it with the seed mix. I sow it in a community flat. We probably put about 3,000 seed in there. It germinated in 4 to 6 days. This was sown on Saturday. I took that picture today. And I always recommend people sow twice as much as you want because we're not exactly sure how good the seed is, especially if you collect from native nature. And then once we have that, it's a strong plant. Once it has 2 or 3 sets of leaves, just from experience, I know that plant can go into a 3-inch, but I'm not telling you guys to do that. I think you guys should go to 2-inch, baby it up, and then go. Super easy. This one's so easy, and the seed is so, it's just so good, the seed. It germinates so well, has a good germination rate, that we can sow this directly into cell trays or plug trays and not waste our time. There's not a lot of plants like that. Some oaks are like that. I still recommend that people put acorns in cold stratification for 1 to 4 months, depending on the oak, even Quercus agrifolia. Through my experience, coast live oak, I still get better germination if I put them in the fridge for a month. And as long as we do the float test, so we'll throw them in water, and if they sink, just like my heart, they're good. If they float, just like my thoughts, ooh, that was nice, that was poetic. If they float, they usually have holes in them. That was so stupid. We throw them out, actually the squirrels will eat them. And we bury them. We bury them as deep as a squirrel would bury it. And actually, that's not true. I like to lightly bury them because I want to develop a long taproot. I don't like to bury them 2 or 3 inches. If you bury them 2 or 3 inches, yes, they will wake up, but in my opinion, you just wasted 2 or 3 inches of taproot. So I want to put them right by the surface. And they usually wake up. Oaks, easy. Cypha, which is one of our native grasses. Cypropulchra is our official California state grass. Very easy. 2 or 3, about 30 to 50% germination, depending on where you collected it from. You just sow it, 1/8 of an inch, cool. If we tell you that these seeds are easy, that's all you do. Is you bury them 1/8 of an inch, keep the seed wet, and they wake up. That's only half the plants that we work with. The other half kick my butt. We started working with Panakita leonii this year, which is probably the rarest plant in the Santa Monica Mountains. We went on the internet. Did you know on the internet right now, you could find this chair, and you can find its dating history online. You can find who sat there. There's probably various websites for that chair. This one right there. But you can't find anything about Panakita leonii and how to germinate it. Like my mom used to say, exagerado. I like to exaggerate it, but I'm making a point. No one has ever grown Panakita leonii except for maybe God, Creator, nature, whoever you might believe in, and one other person that we know, just because it's such a rare plant, and it occurs in places where people don't kick it, they just don't go there. And so a lot of times we're freestyling. And a great tool, when I used to work at the Botanic Garden, this was not available online. This was on a computer in the seed room. I used to have to walk over to the seed room and go, hey, I'm growing this, it's not waking up, can you give me some ideas? Evan at the time, Michael Wall before, and now Cheryl would look it up and then go, yeah, here's 6, they did 6 germination trials. I'm like, oh, nice. And I didn't get fired. So you go to calbg.org, you click on the seed conservation in the seed conservation box, it'll take you to this spot right there. And then I hope you don't have Cricket Wireless because it's a big old Excel spreadsheet and it will download it. I have Cricket Wireless, so it takes a while. There's one Cricket Wireless fan, thank you. It's this huge spreadsheet. Let's look at the sages. I highlighted Salvia leucophylla. They only have one seed treatment or germination treatment for Salvia leucophylla, purple sage. And I'm going to walk you guys through this real quick. I know it's hard to see. What we're looking for is this seed was collected in 1992, frozen, sown in 2006, and 18 woke up out of 49 for a 36%. Here's the important part. Right next to it, NT, no treatment. They didn't do anything with it. They just put it. I don't think I want to explain how they do it really. It's too complicated. Not complicated. They use a germination chamber. They put it on an agar and they keep it sterile. But 36%, which is about average for a lot of our bushy sages. Most of our bushy sages have about 30, 40% germination rate when we sow them. And if there's any codes, if there's anything to do to the seed, there's a whole box at the bottom left of the spreadsheet that will take you to another page, and it will show you all of these codes. CL if you want to clip it, CS1 if you want to do cold stratification, all that stuff. And so here's a few things that we do. Liquid smoke, white sage. I used to get 30% germination from white sage. I just thought I was a bad grower. It turns out I think I am a bad grower. But we have a cheat code now. We can get 60, 70, 80% white sage germination, which for us is amazing, by doing 2 different things. One, we'll put them in liquid smoke. I don't have any proof that it has to be real liquid smoke, but we always just use real, we don't use artificial. This is what we actually use, the hickory one. We have a barbecue, we have a carne asada at the same time, so it's like killing 2 birds. This whole talk is sponsored by Bud Light, by the way. 10% liquid smoke, I take a cap of that liquid smoke, put that in a bowl, I put 9 caps of that water, and I soak the liquid smoke for 2 to 3 hours. And then we sow the white sage on the surface. We don't bury it on the surface. Or we can put it in these, again, I have to send the interns out to go to fiestas, to quinceañeras, they come back with these, and then we'll put the white sage in those bags, we'll turn the hose or the faucet on, let it drip, let it bleed, let it slowly cry, which is way different than setting your seed in water. That's soaking your seed. That's what my grandma, that's what my jefita, that's what we do when we want to have quick beans in the morning. We'll soak them overnight. The beans will take up water. You can cook them quick. That's soaking. This is leaching. This is running water over and taking off probably a lot of that, chia sticky. It's getting rid. I don't have any proof of what it's actually doing, but it's removing something from that seed coat. And amazing, almost identical germination on white sage with these. This one just takes longer, 24 to 48 hours. We still don't have any proof of which one works better. Sometimes we leave it for 2 days, sometimes we leave it for 1. And so for purple sage, now we started leaching it. And so that's our treatment. This is leached purple sage on the left. This is also leached purple sage. A mouse got in here and ate some of them. Oh, he was tasty. I caught him. Have you guys ever had mouse tacos? Phenomenal. Yeah, amazing. Oh, God. So that's what we do. We collect purple sage. I leach it for 24 hours, and I sell it on the surface. I'm getting probably 50 to 60% germination. Nearly milkweed, this is a tough one for some people. Milkweed is interesting. So nearly milkweed, I get to grow probably about 80,000 nearly milkweed a year. It likes cold stratification, so it likes being in a fridge for 2 weeks. It doesn't need it. What it does need is warm weather. It needs a warm temperature. You can warm it up by using a heat pad, bringing that up to 75 degrees, or you can just sow it after like April 20th, after you're done. That was good. Or if you're doing small amounts, you can heat up water and actually pour warm water, try to keep it warm that way indoors if you're sowing stuff indoors. If you do wake them up that early though, in December, January, February, and we get a cold snap, I have lost milkweed by them being too cold. The seedlings will just die back. They don't have enough of a root system to come back up. So we usually start them mid-March to mid-April. We treat them like a chili. And all you do is just treat like a chili seed. Ask any gardener, you guys probably are, how do you grow chili? That's how we grow milkweed. That's how I have the best success with milkweed. Lupins, I stole this picture. I'm from Oxnard. I met this dude yesterday at the Airland Festival. He's from Oxnard. He has a seed company. He has Lupinus sericatus. Has anyone ever grown Lupinus sericatus? This is one of the most jaw-dropping things. I'm not trying to promote anybody, but he's from Oxnard. This is his website. I bought Lupinus sericatus seed. It's one of the most gorgeous plants. Lupin has a hard seed. So let me tell you about this plant real quick. 2 feet tall, about 3 feet wide, a perfect round shrub. And the flowers are almost bigger than the plant. It's like Salvia pachyphylla. It's amazing. Why don't we grow it? Because it comes from a hillside like Salvia pachyphylla. And if you put it in clay soil and you put your 3 drip emitters on it, it lives for about 6 months and then it's all, I'm gone. So how do I grow that? I'm going to take boiling water. This part is sponsored by Home Depot, by the way. We take boiling water. I'm going to put my lupin in a cup. I'm going to put the boiling water on top. Let it sit for 2 minutes. Imagine if you put your hand in a cup. I don't know how you do that. Cut it off, but I guess put your hand in a cup and put boiling water on top of your hand. You wouldn't destroy your hand, but you break the skin. What we're trying to do is break the skin to get water in there. We can do that by files too. We can use files. There's different ways. This is what nature does over 2 years, over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years. In the desert, or just by the sea, just breaking every year, slowly deteriorating. Just like Skyler and me. And when I do my classes, exagerado, I'll take a file and I go, how long do I have to file until we see white? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to break my skin. I'm not trying to bleed. I just want to break skin so if I squeeze lemon in here, it hurts. That's what we're trying to do with the, it's crazy. I'm crazy, right? Cool. That's why this is the last time I'm going to talk to you. So, Malacataminus fasciculatus, chaparral mallow. Sometimes hard to grow. I believe the Rancho website says put boiling water on it for 2 minutes. So you boil the water, you put it on for 2 minutes, then you let it, right? We weren't getting good results. So what we tried instead is we put it in the colander with the pasta, and then we just poured it over, and we let it sit there. And it stays pretty hot, but it's not as hot as boiling water. That was amazing. This was sown in April. We've already taken about 700 plants out of that tray, and they keep coming. And so I love to keep trays of native plants because a lot of times I don't want to wake up at the same time. Small seeds, so dahlia, monkey flowers, these are tiny, 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 tiny seeds. The first thing I'll do with these is I'm going to soak them in water because I'm going to sow most of them on the surface, and it's really hard to keep something that tiny that wet without washing it. So I want to pump it full of water first. So I'm going to soak the dahlia, monkey flowers, those things overnight in water. And now they're wet, they're clumping, so I'm going to use sand I'm gonna mix it up with a little sand, and I'm gonna sow that sand right on top of the flat. And you can see right here, I have this tray over here. This tray has buckwheat. Buckwheat is the smallest dahlia, but we soak buckwheat overnight, mix it with sand, sow it on the surface, and I use a spray bottle on small things to keep the surface wet. I love these things from Amazon. One of our volunteers bought these little flower chingaderas, we call them. If you look up online, chingaderas flower, you'll find it. And you just drink the bottle of water, and you spray this as a light, beautiful, almost like a mist. And it doesn't wash the seed away. Keeps the surface wet, but it doesn't wash the seed away. Two other tools that we use are these fogget nozzles, or these dram redheads that are really nice. But you can wash the seed away very easy if you're not paying attention. So I tend to not let anyone water my seed except for me. I'm the only one that is to blame that gets washed away. Tofu, you guys know the tofu cool? You eat that tofu, it's a tray. These tofu trays are the perfect depth for at home to start your own seed. Poke some holes at the bottom, they're phenomenal. You can start 100 plants in those tofu trays easily. And what I've done this summer, and it actually has worked, I don't know why, I think it's because of the humidity. It's been hot this year, so I'll put these trays upside down empty, and especially last week, the plants the seed that's on the surface doesn't dehydrate as much, but I think I noticed that it was staying more humid. We don't have an overhead mist system, we don't have any technology at the nursery. We don't even have running water, we actually get our water from a weird place. And so I think this is helping during the summer to keep the seed wet and humid. It feels humid in there. So that's work. I'm surprised at what these are doing a lot better when I keep this on than that. And then what do? Once we're done? Every 2 weeks, once I have seeds woken up, I liquid fertilize with this. Very important to me that if I have this many plants, there's probably 1,000 plants, maybe 1,500 plants in there. You guys ever grow up? I don't know how you guys grew up with the cousins, and the cousins come over. And the cousins, you have Little Caesars, and you thought you were gonna get 3 pieces of pizza, and the cousins come over, and now you have half a piece of pizza. That's cool, one day. If the cousins come over every night, now people are getting malnourished. So these guys don't mind for the first week or two, because the seeds usually, well, not usually, they have food to feed that seed. But once we sow them this tightly, they're all fighting for the same soil, the same water. We need to feed our native plants in pots. Please feed them, stop. Once they're in the ground, we don't feed them at all. But in pots, when we grow them this close, we feed. Every 2 weeks, I liquid fertilize them with this Miracle Grow right here. This part is sponsored by Miracle Grow. And once they're big enough, I go from here into 2-inch light soil. This is my formula for light soil. And once they're in their individual pots, now they each get a slice of pizza, and I give them Osmo code, 1414. I want to hype up again these amazing free workshops that are available right down the street from here. CMPS San Diego has an amazing hort thing. We offer our free stuff. And then I get to yell into a mic even louder than this at specific events. We're going to do a fundraiser September 28th with our band. Okay, this is the PowerPoint that I forgot to erase this. This is part of it. Yeah. Let me leave it. I think I'll go back to my email and I'll see if anybody has any questions. Oh, I love it. There's everybody wants to see. Can I yell at the mic real quick and wake everybody up? Yeah.
Sing to us.
What time of year do you sow? Anytime or?
That's a great question.
All spring, different ones are fall, different are spring.
So I sow all year. The only thing that we don't sow all year is that milkweed. That doesn't mean that you're going to get the same germination. We got burned this year with our buckwheat. We just sow our buckwheat February, March, April. It was so wet, so cloudy, we lost so much of it. But we sow all year. Yeah, you have to keep stuff wet. You have to fertilize it more. But I love sowing it this time of year because the stuff wakes up so fast. Compared to nature, nature sows or wakes up in December or January. It's a very slow process. It's just different. So for me, it's all year except for the milkweed. And if it's super wet, super splashy, super foggy, you could lose some stuff during winter. Did that answer your question?
I mean, even big
just so that buckwheats from last, yeah, that buckwheats, yeah. So and we did it when I was at Rancho Santa Ana, that's Panama. We have a 30% shade, right? But it's outdoors. And yeah, I'm just keeping it wet. You gotta water more, but they wake up so much easier. It's harder to grow when you have little seedlings and they're so close to the soil and you can't control the rain and the cold, we lose stuff so fast that way. And so I love sowing during the summer. I'll take that to my grave. That's what we're doing right now. I'm gonna die quick anyway, so that's easy to say. I'm probably dead the next month, so spiritually, not physically.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the lemonade berry. Do you ferment the fruity part, or how do you remove that, or do you need to remove that?
No, yeah, you collect them. I collect them in those mesh bags. Yeah, we just go out, pop a few in your mouth, pop them in the mesh bags, let them dry, probably a few weeks to a few months. I just let them dry for months because I usually don't need the seed that soon. And that's another point. Let me get back to this. I don't want to avoid that. It's hard to collect seed and then germinate it like the next few days. Some stuff will wake up, but a lot of times, I don't know what it is, the stuff needs to like post-ripen. So I would caution you guys against just collecting and sowing. Some stuff will work, some stuff doesn't. So if you have stuff that if you did everything, you may just need to have it ripen. So once the berries or once the fruits are dry, they're easy to just peel and the fruit comes right out. On a mass scale, I have no idea how to clean that. But to just do a few hundred, it's not that hard to just peel the little fruit off and have the seed come right out. Anybody else?
I can probably feel that.
Soap lily. I'm interested in propagating it. We have an elevation that's at 4,700 feet,
Yeah.
and I want to make more to fill an area that Cal Fire bulldozed for fire clinics. I want to propagate it into that area. Any suggestions?
I have no idea. No. So I don't think I've ever, that's Chloralum.
Chloralum, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember if I've ever grown that. Let me answer the question a few ways. California buckwheat, I've grown forever, and it always wakes up. When I was at Rancho, we went to Mount Baldy, collected from about 3,500 feet elevation, and I sowed it just like normal, let it sit for a month or two, sowed it, nothing came up. I thought I was going to get fired. I'm like, damn, I can't even do buckwheat. It's bad. We let it hang out. This is probably November. We let it hang out all winter because I'm not going to get rid of it. March or April, it woke up. It just needed to go through that cold stratification, which California buckwheat doesn't need cold stratification if you're collecting it from here. It just doesn't. So my tip to you would be to cold stratify it if it's from that high elevation. And then sow it. When I've done bulbs and corms in the past, we always sow them in individual pots, which takes up a lot of space. And we want that plant to develop a little root and then kind of hang out under the plant, or under the soil. So what we'll do is the first year you might have a tiny little blade, an inch tall, and then it'll die. And once you see it go brown, you stop watering it. We just stack them up, we don't touch them. And then once the rain comes, we unstack them, let that water fertilizer. And it takes usually 2 or 3 years to get a plantable corm or a bulb out into nature. I know people have tried to plant seed directly into nature, and I don't know how successful that is. I think you would need to bury it, but I'm not sure. That's a great question. I have no idea. I could look it up.
I can look it up on the website.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of us, not me, but a lot of people are really cool. And they won't give you answers. If you ask Jenny, if you ask Cheryl, a lot of times, if they have the time, they'll share what they know with you. So don't be afraid to reach out to people you might think, I don't know if you're in the profession or not, if you work with, don't be afraid to reach out to people. They will help you. California Botanic Garden, yeah, Cheryl, yeah, and a lot of the stuff that they know isn't published, right? They don't have it. They just know, oh, yeah, we tried that the other day, this is what's working for us. Anybody else? Take that one first. Sorry.
I wanted to know if you clean the seed with any disinfectant for pathogens, so like hydrogen peroxide or bleach.
Yeah, no, we that I've ever heard of being cleaned is the buckwheats. And you can see they use tween. This is Rancho Santa. I think it's there, right? Right there, BLT. 20% bleach, 1% tween, or above BL or BL2. So that, I know that does help on some buckwheat species. I think mostly because the buckwheats have like this little peel on them that if you don't get them off and they stay and it stays too wet, it stays too cold, you keep them too wet, that's what could lead to some of that infection. So we don't do it personally, but we don't deal with a lot of the more rare, the harder buckwheats. We just do 3 or 4 buckwheats. If you guys were super worried about it, I think I don't even know how long to soak that in for. Is it 2 minutes, an hour? You guys reach out to Cheryl, reach out to Jenny. They're super cool. They would give you the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I understand scarification basically mimics the physical action that the seed would go through if it's sitting on the ground. Is the leaching basically equivalent to rain as far as how it affects the seeds?
That's a good question because the plants that we leach don't need it. Like white sage doesn't need leaching, but it benefits from it. I can still get 30% from white sage without leaching, but for some reason it just benefits from it. So I don't have an answer to your question. I have no idea. I think I answered your question by not answering. But I do I have started using leaching on stuff that I just can't grow. We'll just add it on top of something else. It's like a taquero, like, okay, asada, I got 3 pods, like, we do some sesos because I like work, right? You probably don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to freeze the seed and then leach it. I'm hoping that works. There's one plant, the Verbena lazarus stachys, is whooping my butt. I can't grow Verbena lazarus stachys. It's the biggest weed in California, basically. I can't grow it.
Antonio,
Who the heck's talking? Oh God! Where's that voice coming from?
it's nature talking to you. No, I have my own opinion about that because, how do our plants make it, 100 to 200 years of that historical fire regime if they have dormancy chemicals? And so, one way to, in my opinion, a plant doesn't help the plants to come up in a dry year, right? So those dormancy chemicals protect the seed from coming up when it's not going to be advantageous to the seed, which means it has to get pretty wet. So you would get flooding in some areas or continuous water if you were on a hillside, and that's why I think that works. Because you have to break the dormancy somehow.
Yeah, I highly respect your work, but isn't that the same as soaking?
Yeah, it would be similar to soaking.
But I see different results from soaking and leaching.
I think it really would depend on the landform.
Yeah.
That in where those seeds grow, I think it would depend on the landform. Like if you are a plant that's on a hillside, then the water is going to go through you and pass through and around you. But if you're a plant that grows, in a clay lens, like a milkweed, just soaking would probably be fine for you. You wouldn't need to be bleached.
Yeah. Milkweed is super interesting. Yeah. No, I respect that. Yeah. And that's honestly why I don't think I'm a good grower, because I don't really pay attention to the details. True propagators, they try all that. I tend to abandon that stuff. It didn't work. That's what I'm fired from all this place.
I always think, I'm a lousy grower too, just the idea of keeping going. And yes, there are people who have native talent, but not all of them keep going.
Or get the poet.
I'll respond to that because, in my experience with growing seeds of Australian plants, there are different kinds of seed dormancy. There's
there's chemical dormancy, there's physiological dormancy, there's a physical dormancy. Some of them have all 3 or 4 or multiple kinds of dormancy, and there are books on seed germination for Australian plants, and leaching is one of the recommended methods for some kinds. And there's just something, it's something about it continually washing away whatever that is that it's washing away. Just the soaking alone won't do it. There's a good set of books by Norman Dino, I think, Seed Germination Theory and Technique, and it covers all of this stuff. These books are out of print, they're completely out of print, you can't even find them on eBay. But he goes through all the science behind seed germination and all the different seed dormancy types and different methods for germination and what percentage you get for the species and blah, 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 blah. I mean, they're fantastic books, but yeah, sadly you can't get them anymore. But yeah, so there's something about leaching as opposed to just soaking that makes it completely different, and only the leaching will work for certain kinds of things.
Yeah, and there's, just to be clear, I didn't cover everything like heat treatment, burning, raising the temperature and stuff. We use cenotes, metal poppies. I tried to burn stuff here, and I guess you guys won't let me say something. I would just encourage you guys to try and look at that spreadsheet. There's so many different plants to grow. It's pretty cool.
Do you have anything else you want to go over? Like you have this set up?
If anybody wants to join me, I can just show you real quick what the buckwheat flowers look like, how to do a quick seed, and I can show you how we would soak it, how we water it, how those little tools work. I brought those little tools. And then there's a brewery down the street. I'm going to go hit that over there. And if you guys have any questions, please hit me up. I'll take about 2 weeks to get back to you. And I really appreciate you guys